Hello guys, and today I'm going to tell you my honest experience of what it was like to see an Oscar winning film. Well, the film itself didn't necessarily get an Oscar, but the actress who portrayed the main role in it got a best actress Oscar, okay, um, in the cinema about 20 years ago. Now, this is not going to be what you're going to expect, guys. I'm telling you now, okay? Now, about 20 years ago, um, in 2002, a film was released called Monsters Ball, featuring Halle Berry. Okay, now at the time, there wasn't really a lot of hype about the film. I mean, there may have been if you were a fanatic, but I'd not heard any press about it. And at the time, I just went to see a lot of films in the cinema at the time. Okay, and to be completely honest with you, I went to see this film not because I'd heard it had the most astonishing acting in it or anything like that. The honest truth is that I went to see this film simply because it was the only film in the cinema or the nearby cinemas. I forget that I honestly hadn't seen. So I can't remember if there was more than one cinema or if it was the only cinema where I was. I truly can't remember after all this time. But it was the only film in the cinema that I hadn't, or local cinemas that I honestly hadn't seen. Okay? So it was, well, I haven't seen it, I might as well. Now, you might think that because the actress who portrayed the main role in the film went on to win the Best Oscar Actress for her performance in this film, you would probably think that there would be queues a mile long to get into the cinema to see this film. Well, actually, that wasn't quite my experience. As I said, it wasn't very high profile. I'd not heard really much about it on the television. It wasn't like the latest Bond film. It wasn't going to be some spectacular featuring Bruce Willis or Sylvester Stallone or any of the really famous names around that kind of time. To be honest with you, or Jean-Claude Van Damme or any of these people who were, I think, well known at the time. No, and obviously others. I mean, there were many actors that were famous at the time. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, you know. No, this was going to be to the public, generally a B movie that most people never heard of, right? Probably. But I just went along because it was the only film I hadn't seen. I went there and I went into the what Americans call the movie theatre. And you know, it was a multi-screen cinema, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think it was a multi-screen. It's so long ago I forget, because some of them didn't have many screens. Some of them, the cinemas I went to, only had 2 or 3 screens. Some had about 10. I can't remember after all this time, but I do definitely remember going in the cinema and watching it. And I remember that once I walked in, I was surprised by just how few people were actually in the room to watch it. I would guess that there's probably about less than 10 people, including myself, in the whole room watching it. Now, this wasn't because it was an exceptionally small cinema or because they couldn't have lots of people in the room. No, the vast majority of the seats for the viewing were completely empty. And this was not normal, okay? This was normal for a film which wasn't expected to do very well. Okay, or which perhaps had a bad review, or which the public weren't really interested in. So I sat down and I watched this with very few people, and I remember this very specifically. I then started to watch it, and to be honest, I thought most of the film was just truthfully very boring. It wasn't really brilliant, and I wasn't that impressed, but I just put it down to, well, it was a B movie I'd never really heard of. It didn't have a lot of hype. I didn't believe at the time. I could be wrong, but you know, I never heard of it, and to be honest, Halle Berry herself wasn't really that famous back then either, to be very honest, and so I'd never truthfully really heard of her, I don't think. I hadn't heard of the film, I hadn't heard of any of the actors in the film. I put down to, well, I paid to see a film that I hadn't seen with actors I didn't really know. Um, what did I expect? It was apparently some sort of, I would call it generally a black film, because a lot of the actors in it were black and it was black themed. It was about the execution of this woman's husband or something like that. I forget the exact story. Anyway, I wasn't that impressed, but I thought it's my own fault. I picked a film with people I didn't know that were in it, and well, it wasn't at the time. I thought that highly regarded or that well hyped. Many months later, I found out that Halle Berry actually won the Oscar for her role in it, and I was absolutely astonished. I had absolutely no idea when I was in the cinema at the time that I was watching an Oscar winning performance. If you had told me, I wouldn't have believed it. I'm not saying she didn't deserve it. I didn't compare it with other films at the time from that kind of perspective. I just went to see films, watched them, either liked them or I didn't. I didn't try to analyse it for acting ability or anything like that. So I get my personal gut feeling was she may have deserved it because she may have acted very well in a story that basically I found rather boring. Now, I'm sure maybe you liked it, maybe some people watched it and thought it was a fantastic film. I'm sure the fact that she won the Best Actress Oscar for it will change people's perception. Say, yes, it was a fantastic film, astonishing acting or whatever. But back then, I didn't see it that way. I just put down to, well, I wasted my money, but, it was my own fault for not picking superstars. A film with superstars or something. So there you go. I just didn't think any more of it until I was absolutely gobsmacked when I found out she'd won the Best Actress Oscar for it, okay? And it was a case where you can go along and see a film with very low expectations, not even think the film's very good, come away disappointed, but not too disappointed because you probably didn't expect much in the first place, and then be absolutely astonished to realise you'd witnessed an Oscar-winning performance in the cinema. And as I said, contrary to what you would expect, the cinema, the film, the theatre room showing I'm not sure the proper word for it, but what they call, the room where they were showing it was practically empty with easily less than 10 people. I mean, I could see barely anybody watching it with me, barely anybody, and that's why I remember it so much. I don't think I've seen so few people in a film watch a film that I've been in the cinema with, to be honest. I could be wrong, but it was very, 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 very few people, and it was virtual empty seats. And there you go. So that's my honest, surprising experience of watching a film which featured an Oscar-winning actress, and by that I mean she actually won the Best Oscar Actress for that film. Okay, and I would never have believed it was an Oscar-winning performance. So there you go. That's what it's really like to witness an Oscar-winning performance in the cinema, and not even realizing it. Okay. I'm sure this has bored a lot of people. I'll provide a link below to the film itself. Thanks for watching, guys. Well, not a link to the film itself, but I mean links to details about the film. I don't want to provide links to a pirate version. I know people, if you want to watch it, I'm sure you can find it on somewhere else, on I don't know where you rent them from these days, but maybe Netflix or wherever you can rent things like that from. I don't know. I'm not an expert on renting films anymore. I'm not in the modern world, but I provide links to Wikipedia and others. Okay, but as I said, I was surprised. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.